Idaho's News Channel 7. This is Viewpoint.
Well, good morning and hope you're enjoying your day so far. Glad you could join us for Viewpoint this week. We have one of the top elected officials in the state of Idaho with us on this edition, but maybe from an office you aren't as well versed in. The Idaho Controller. They have a lot of valuable work going on in their office, and they've created a lot of tools so that you at home can keep track of crucial government moves in the Gem State. It's all about transparency. We'll talk about that, but a good morning to you, Mr. Controller Brandon Woolf. Thank you so much for joining us here on Viewpoint.
Thank you, Joe. Appreciate it.
And I know you and I have done interviews before on Transparent Idaho, which we'll get to in our second segment. But I mean, I'll be honest, of the top elected officials, I would imagine you get the least interview requests.
Yeah, sometimes that's the way it goes. So yes, you know, a controller, a lot of people wonder, what is the controller and how's that different from the treasurer?
Well, I think that's a great place to start. That's actually my first question, and something I was talking about in our newsroom with some of our other staff is, what does the controller do?
You know, the controller is part of the fiscal team. The treasurer is also there, but think of the controller as like the state's checkbook. We pay all the state employees, we pay all the bills. The treasurer, on the other hand, I like to apply it to as like the savings account. So think of, we have the checkbook, we're making all the payments and tracking it from that standpoint. Now, there's so many other little things that we do, but those are the key things to help distinguish and share. You know, in all fairness, my mom always asked too, well, what is the controller and what do you really do, Brandon? So those are some of the key points.
My dad's an accountant. He's a CPA. I grew up with him, you know, watching all the work he does. Do you guys do a lot of just the accounting for the state of Idaho for all the agencies?
A little bit, but it's more from a central standpoint. Each agency has their own financial teams and then report up through us centrally, and then we do a central processing. So that's a key part of what we help from a control standpoint and help with training and understanding and help setting the policies from those accounting principles.
Because I know in our line of work, a lot of times, you know, we're going through public records and a lot of, you know, down to the penny expenditures, and I've always wondered, who's keeping track of all of this? I guess that would be your office.
It is. We have that in our systems to help us keep track of all that information, and there's a lot of it. And, you know, that's a key piece to help that and to help make sure we have everything factual and correct.
Well, we'll talk more about controller business in a minute, but a little bit about you. You grew up on a dairy farm in Preston, Idaho. You know, growing up, did you ever think you'd end up in the government like this?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, that was always an interest. That was my undergraduate. This work was in political science, but you know, growing up with Napoleon Dynamite down there in Preston and on the dairy farm, I had no idea. You know, it's always following your dreams and your things of what you want to do and hoping the best, and so.
Way off topic. You're from Preston.
Yes.
I know you've seen Napoleon Dynamite. How accurate is it to Preston, Idaho?
It is very accurate. Actually, you know, several of the scenes, a lot of the stories are true things that happened, and several of the characters in the movie they play themselves. So, you know, like our high school secretary, she played herself, and she was pretty proud of it. She was an awesome lady.
Okay, so when you go to Preston, Idaho, you know that it is shot perfectly in Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes.
A little bit about your path to becoming controller. How did you end up, I mean, in this high tier of government?
Well, you know, back, I went to Utah State. It was in the same valley. I grew up in Preston. It's at the southern end of the valley there in Cache Valley in Logan, Utah. But my wife and I moved up here. I started as an intern at the controller's office. Working for J.D. Williams, who used to be the mayor of Preston, and my wife actually babysat his two younger daughters. We came up here to watch my brother play in the state basketball tournament. Preston has always a great tradition in basketball, and we came up to watch him and had the opportunity, and J.D. said, hey, we'd love to have you start as an intern. And that was 1997, August of 97, so I've been there over 26 years, and started as an intern. And just had the opportunities throughout the office to work there, and it's been an amazing experience.
I think one of the best perks of your job, and for a lot of folks probably haven't seen this, is, you know, your office in downtown Boise. I think you have probably the best view, maybe other than the governor. Do you ever think back as you're looking out, you know, out your window about your first week as intern and how far you've come?
Well, you know, yeah, it is a thing to sit there and reflect, and one of the great parts I have is, you know, whether it's taking the elevator or walking up the stairs, we're on the 5th floor of the Joe R. Williams building. So we're not in the Capitol, but as you mentioned, we have a beautiful view to look out the Capitol, look out over the valley, look at the foothills. But kind of the key thing is being able to, each day knowing, hey, how can we help the Idaho citizens? We're kind of behind the scenes. We're that engine of state government behind. And if we're humming and doing our job right, then everything else moves smoothly. And so our part is by being able to help quietly and whatever it is each day, knowing we're helping out some way. That's the huge thing I had every day from the very beginning, those first couple of weeks to even today.
So it really set the tone, and you stuck with that through your career, which is interesting. I know that when I've walked through your office, I mean, I was impressed. You know, there's, as you mentioned, there's a lot of quiet work going on. There's a lot of accounting. There's a lot of number crunching.
Yeah.
What type of support staff does your office have that's doing all this, I mean, crucial work?
Yeah, so our team's made up of kind of 4 divisions. We have our accounting division. They're processing the financial statements and helping the daily work of pay all the bills. Roughly about 13-14 billion dollars runs through our office every year. Lots of payments, both warrants, checks, and ACH. But the other is we have payroll. We're processing the payroll for 25,000 state employees. We also have major systems of our financial, HR, and payroll systems that we're processing and monitoring, keeping the health. And half of my team is actually IT. And so keeping the systems up and running is a key part. We can't be down. And then, of course, our administrative division to help keep things running. So we have about 114 employees. Seems large, but that is a large one to help us keep going and do the work quietly behind the scenes.
I would imagine since your first week as intern in the late 90s that the technology you touched on, the IT, how different is that now?
It's huge. You know, I remember some of the first things, and I still tell the staff today, some of the forms that the agencies had to fill out for a new hire or a pay raise or a pay increase. It was press hard 3 times, and here's 3 copies. And then how many times people had to key punch that into the mainframe and pass that around. And so it's amazing where that's come from and the efficiencies that's provided. And now today we were just talking about AI and how that can help, and all these other technological advances have been a big improvement at the state.
So in your role as state controller, you also serve on the Idaho Board of Land Commissioners and as the secretary of the Idaho Board of Examiners. What's it like being in those executive roles? I mean, it's very different than what you do as controller.
It is. It is a big difference, and I like to talk about that because on the accounting and the financial side, it's pretty set. Here's the Idaho Code, here's what it will be, and Idaho Code says this is how it will be. The opportunity to really do policy is where I sit on the land board, where I'm the secretary. I'm the non-voting member on the Board of Examiners, but we support the governor, the attorney general, and secretary of state as they process that. But being on the land board is an amazing opportunity to help the beneficiaries for the state of Idaho, and being able to help set the tone, help really increase that for our trustees that we have as trustees to help those beneficiaries in the long run. And it does have a little bit aside and to help break up the day of what we're working on financially as the controller, but also do these policy things from the land board perspective.
Probably a really good left brain, right brain activity.
It really is.
When you're working on land board items, I mean, is that kind of something that you really have to think differently than you would as, I guess, doing number crunching?
It really is. I mean, in the standpoint of, as a trustee, you have that fiduciary responsibility of only to that beneficiary. And so, and the great part is being able to work with the stakeholders. We have the timber industry, the ag industry, the grazing, the mining, and being able to work with the stakeholders, work with our Department of Lands to help set that policy of what's best moving forward. And then the overall big thing is if we can have more money that we can distribute and pay out to those beneficiaries, that means there's less tax dollars have to be raised and distributed to the public schools or the other beneficiaries. So it's a big opportunity to say, hey, we're doing something great for Idaho that way.
Maybe not a surprise based on our conversation, but I know that your office operates the state's largest data center. I mean, what's it like to have the largest data center here?
It is. I mean, it is unique, and we're the only controller in the country that has a data center. Most of them coordinate with someone else in their state, but to have a big mainframe, and that's slowly transitioning away and a lot of the other elements, but it's an opportunity to really have that understanding and work and coordinate with the other state agencies of how we can have those efficiencies, have the enterprise thought of just not like, well, here's how we want to do it, but if we can think globally, help save money, here's how we're doing it, and we can partner together. And those things from the data center, it's partnering with other state agencies. There's the information technology services and other state agencies that partner with us. How we can help, again, reduce costs, be more efficient and be more effective, and those are valuable things. And being able to walk in and see an old mainframe system, it is a little unique, but I think that world's starting to change, and how many mainframe programmers exist that you can find. And so we joke about having to go to the nursing home to recruit mainframe programmers. we have incredible staff, and I'll fight for them every day that say that I have the best team in the state of Idaho, and our employees are the best. So.
Chatting with Idaho State Controller Brandon Woolf. We do have to take a real quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about Transparent Idaho, an initiative that you should definitely know about going on in the Controller's office. That's here on Viewpoint right after this break.
Stay tuned to learn more about this limited time offer from Renewal by Andersen.
We all have that list of home improvement projects we need to do, and if replacing your home's windows and doors is on that list, you want to know that it's going to be affordable. I'm from Renewal by Andersen, and we've helped thousands of customers who are on a budget get our windows and doors for their home. How do we do it? Well, here's something you don't expect to hear from a window company. You don't have to upgrade all your windows and doors at the same time. We're really good at identifying the bad windows and those you can wait on replacing. And here's something we offer that you don't find with a lot of window companies or contractors: great financing options. With Renewal by Andersen, you can have monthly payments that'll probably be lower than your cable bill. With another program, you can get windows and doors now and not pay anything for an entire year. It's almost like free money. No wonder half of our customers finance. Before we talk about the warranty, think about other things you've bought. Did it sometimes feel like you had to buy the expensive extended warranty to get the good coverage? That's never the case with us. Our windows are so durable and our installers are so talented. Unlike some other companies, our warranties cover the windows, patio doors, and the installation.
It's really impressive that they sell the product, they manufacture the product, they install the product, because then you're dealing with one company, and you're dealing with one company that has a long-standing and solid reputation.
Let Renewal by Andersen help put great windows and doors in your budget this year.
Before September 30th, save 20% on windows and save 20% on patio doors. Plus, get an extra $1,000 off your entire project. With no money down, no payments, and no interest for 1 year, you can start this project now and pay nothing for a year. This offer ends September 30th. For a free appointment with Renewal by Andersen, call 208-427-8900.
Thanks for being with us on Viewpoint this week. We are continuing our conversation with State Controller Brandon Woolf, and something that always catches my eye from your office, and to be honest, my favorite part of your office, the initiative Transparent Idaho. And for people that don't know about it, what's the initiative all about?
So it really started, it came about 10 years ago, and there was one graph that I saw, and it really piqued my interest, and it said, the trust in government is at an all-time low. And obviously 10 years it hasn't improved, but the key part is, what can we do at the Controller's office that we can help add value and help try to build trust again? And where we have all this financial data and information, what could we do to help the citizens try to build a little bit of trust in government again? So that was kind of the impetus of where Transparent Idaho came from. We created it 10 years ago. It was on PDFs back then, it was updated, but we've been able to update it and move forward from there. It has all the financial for the state agencies, and the big piece that obviously is most interested that we watch from Google Analytics is people like to know how much are people paid. So we do have the employee salaries and pay rates on there, which is so helpful and beneficial. But those are that was kind of the impetus and the genesis of where it came from.
And the tools that you guys have developed, and I know we'll have some clips that we can run here, just, you have these really beautiful and easy to read graphs, these visualizations on the website where you can look at budgets, you can look at spending, you can look at vendors. I mean, to you, how often are you playing through the Transparent Idaho website?
Myself?
Yeah.
Being a data nerd and geek as well, I'm on it daily. I mean, there's questions or things that pop up. I want to quickly dive in and find myself. So whether it's on my mobile phone or on the laptop or the desktop, it's easy to use, as you mentioned. And that was a big push I wanted for our team, is saying, I want to make this easy that everyone could use it. And being able to find it. There's so much information today. Every day there's so much created, and so how could we make it easy for the user to not feel complicated, like, well, I have to dive on this page and click here and here and here. How can we make it simple and easy to use as well? That was a key piece.
Because I know, in our field in journalism, when you go through public records requests or just trying to get financial information, PDFs, a lot of printed documents, it's hard to glean through all that. Right. But with Transparent Idaho, those tools, I mean, you're able to have narratives and stories right in front of you. Exactly.
That was a key piece, is, and the work that we've done is how to make that easier for the end user to say, hey, look, tell the story. And someone's like, well, there was changing that culture too at the state. A lot of people wanted to hold on to the information and like, well, but it's public. There's a very clear thing in Idaho code that says what's public information and what's not. And from your background, obviously, no one doing a lot of public information requests is saying, what is most helpful that way, and being able to identify and look that up and changing that culture to say this is public information and let's just make it easier for the end user to grab it and to see that. So.
And when we were developing the program a decade ago, did you envision it would look like this with these beautiful graphs that run so quickly?
No, not at all. And that was a key piece, is how can we change that and make that easier? I come back to kind of the 5 pillars. I talked about trust earlier, building that trust up, changing that culture, helping increase accountability at the state level, and we maybe talk as well at the local level, because that's a key piece that we've added here in just the last few months. But really, and then to make it so it's easier for policymakers to have data-driven decisions so they could believe in it, and also maybe to deter fraud. If everyone's watching and it's posted out there, and everyone's checking and looking at it, then maybe they'll be able to say, hey, maybe we don't need to buy that car or buy that laptop or computer, whatever it may be, to think about it and say, is that really needed or necessary?
And I know, in recent years, there's been a lot of talk about property taxes in Idaho, and a lot of people have a renewed interest in looking at their local budgets. Well, Transparent Idaho, you can now look at local budgets. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so where that came from, even clear back 10 years ago, I always wanted to have some place we could have one portal to look up information. We have 44 counties, 199 cities, 193 school districts, 800 plus taxing districts. That's over 1,200 websites to go to try to compare and contrast. And like you said, with property tax, as an example, when you try to look up and say, compare Ada County to Canyon County to Kootenai County or Bonneville, we needed something instead of one place to go to. And so it was being able to standardize the data. So it was standard of however Ada County clerk reported it versus another, that we made it standard and uniform. Then we can compare apples to apples. And so that was the genesis. We put on local government. We started with the counties first. We're working with the cities, the school districts, and then the taxing districts. But again, and then you can change it to a percentage, and you say, well, how much is a county spending on their jail, their sheriff, and prosecuting attorney versus another one? And not meant to be a gotcha to say, hey, they did something or find out something bad, but what are the best practices? If I'm a county commissioner and I can look on here and say, oh, we're spending 40% of our budget on public safety and this county's only spending 22, what are they doing? And how can we better improve ourselves, or say, what can we do that's different and improve? And from a standpoint of, we do have the property tax information. We have the cash reserve. What's the cash fund balance on a particular entity? And so that will be very valuable going forward for the citizens to say, what are they doing? And a great policy discussions to have.
And I appreciate the policy discussion that you mentioned, because when I talk to lawmakers and I tell them about Transparent Idaho and we have these conversations, you don't have an excuse anymore if you're a lawmaker or somebody in a policy discussion saying, well, we don't have the numbers, but I think we have the numbers. They're right there.
Exactly. My dream will be you're sitting in a legislative in a legislative committee hearing, and you see them pull up and say, well, actually, on Transparent Idaho, this is what the numbers say. It's right here. So, that would be a dream to have, and say, pull up and have that at some point.
I think that'll happen very soon.
I hope so.
There's a lot of those committee meetings where they're on their computers, and I've wondered, like, what are they looking at?
Yeah, exactly.
As you continue to build out Transparent Idaho into the future, what goals or what ideas do you have to keep expanding it?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things we're looking to do is continue to add more data and being able to have more metrics. So you could say, well, you could compare this municipality to another one, but to say, okay, well, maybe it's how much do they spend on Parks and Rec? Well, maybe they have 400 more acres than this other entity, and they have to spend them more on personnel and then on fuel compared to what this one. But what are the metrics? Or how much are they spending on highways and bridges? And so it's being able to put the metrics, put the policies out there that people trust the data, they can easily find it, and then that it can be that the policymakers can say, okay, these are numbers that we trust and verify, and we can make the decisions on them.
Real quickly, I'm told we're short on time in our segment. What's your favorite part about being controller? Is it all the data?
That's a key piece, but I would say it's my team. It's working my staff. It's being able to help the state of Idaho and helping other state agencies and just collaborate. Being able to say, hey, we may not know the solution now, but let's work together and let's solve it.
Controller for the state of Idaho, Brandon Woolf, joining us this morning on Viewpoint. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
There's a lot of things we didn't get to, so we'll have to have you back another time.
Sounds great.
All right, well, when we come back, we are taking a look at the rift within the GOP. A former governor, he had a major endorsement of a controversial initiative. Idaho's GOP chair, Dorothy Moon, critical of his comments. We'll talk about it coming up after the break.
If your garage has become a breeding ground for bugs and pests, it's time to call A1 Garage Door Service. Replacing the bottom rubber on your garage door can have a huge impact on the number of bugs you see. Keep those creepy crawlers outside by calling A1 Garage Door Service today.
The new 2023 GMC Sierra AT4X is equipped to conquer the great outdoors. Or the great indoors. Welcome to the peak of premium off-roading. Or get 0.9% APR on 2023 2.7-liter turbo high-output engine Sierra light-duty elevation models. Plus, current eligible GMC owners get over $5,200 total value.
See your Treasure Valley GMC dealers.
With the Freestyle Libre 2 system, know your glucose level and where it's headed without finger sticks. Manage your diabetes with more confidence. Now widely covered by Medicare for patients managing diabetes with insulin. Visit freestylelibre.us to learn more.
I like the always pan and perfect pot, but you look like fun. Only at our place.
Dear 2030, we look forward to seeing you. After our 160-point quality assurance inspection, we'll be Toyota certified used vehicles with 7-year, 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranties. Not to honk our own horns, but the best new cars make the best used cars. Yours, Toyota. Get 5.49% APR for up to 60 months on your favorite Toyota certified used models. Find yours at toyotacertified.com. Toyota, let's go places.
If your garage has become a breeding ground for bugs and pests, it's time to call A1 Garage Door Service. Replacing the bottom rubber on your garage door can have a huge impact on the number of bugs you see. Keep those creepy crawlers outside by calling A1 Garage Door Service today.
Welcome back to Viewpoint. Again, thank you to the Idaho Controller, Brandon Woolf, for joining us. But changing topics now, a viewpoint from a former governor is usually pretty interesting, especially on the topic of the rift through the Idaho Republican Party. It's fair to say that the battle lines are clearly drawn at this point, the dynamic of the traditional establishment Republicans against a newer brand of politics that doesn't shy away from inter-party conflict based on bold actions. And those bold actions are applauded by supporters for breaking the mold of years past. Now, the situation, all of this was illustrated by a microcosm at the state capitol. Familiar faces, leaders of the Republican Party from the 90s and 2000s, they stood in support of an idea to open Idaho's primary elections to nonpartisan races. The Idaho Republican Party, they moved in 2011 to close their primary so that only registered Republicans could vote in it. And that move, critics now say, has ended up with self-serving politics from GOP members that aren't concerned with what a majority of Idaho Republicans want. We'll take you to the state capitol for this viewpoint. The initiative group, Idahoans for Open Primaries, are confident the people of the Gem State support their idea to change how Idaho's elections work.
I'll guarantee you it will be up for a vote in 2024. It's going to be a game changer.
Retired Idaho Supreme Court Justice Jim Jones is a leader with Idahoans for Open Primaries. Jones, speaking at the state capitol on Wednesday, says longtime Republicans support the open primary concept as a way to rein in extreme Idaho GOP behavior.
I heard from so many of those people, like Sally Patano and Jack Riggs, how the Republicans in their area have just gone off the rails. And they don't attend to business like Republicans did years ago.
The initiative aims to change primaries to an open format with instant runoff general elections. This is also called ranked choice voting. In short, primary elections would include all political parties. The top 4 vote getters in the primary, regardless of their political affiliation, would go on to the general election. Voters would then rank their top 4 in the general election, with the winner needing at least 50% of the vote.
We got to work as hard as they do and be nice about it.
Former Idaho Governor Butch Otter is one of 116 community-known Republicans statewide that align as traditional Republicans in support of this initiative. To him, this is about bringing civility back to the Idaho GOP and state politics. I asked him for his thoughts on the state GOP led by Chair Dorothy Moon.
I would say they have some extremist ways. I don't think to the core the whole Central Committee is that way, because there was some pretty good battles. There was some pretty good resistance to doing what the party eventually did. And that's a good thing, and that's something that I see that looks promising.
Idaho Republican Party leaders like Chair Moon have spoken out numerous times against the initiative. They say it will allow Democrats to select Republican nominees. Otter believes the initiative would simply result in the best leaders.
Anybody that is against the open primary is I think is concerned about their own individual particular race, and they're being selfish with the voters.
Republicans who disagree worry the initiative invites outsiders into their party race, some going as far as to call the campaign a liberal plot to exploit the Republican stronghold of Idaho. Chair Moon wrote in an August newsletter, quote, "Make no mistake, this initiative is a pernicious plot to take away your ability to vote for conservative lawmakers. The blanket primary takes away your right to nominate your own candidates. Just as BYU doesn't get to decide who starts at quarterback for Boise State, neither should Democrats get to vote on who represents the Republican Party in the general election." I asked Otter about a line former GOP Chair Tom Luna mentioned frequently. This idea that the Republican Party in Idaho is a big tent that has a variety of conservatives welcome to it. The former governor doesn't see it like that anymore.
I think it's become very narrow, and I think it's shoved a lot of people out from participation and out from activity.
Idaho GOP Chair Dorothy Moon was in touch with me about her thoughts on this. She sent me the statement that says, quote, "The overlap between the so-called Republicans who are endorsing the ranked choice voting initiative and those who supported the Democrat candidates in last year's race for AG is indeed noteworthy." She continues and points out that the Republican Party and the RNC and the state level, they've already overwhelmingly rejected ranked choice voting. She finalizes her thoughts saying that it is crucial to reject the divisive rhetoric that Butch Otter uses, attempting to label the grassroots of the party and the Idaho GOP leadership as radical extremists. And we have the full comments from Chair Moon on our website right now at ktvb.com. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this edition of Viewpoint. Again, thank you to our guest, Idaho's Controller, Brandon Woolf. For everything you need on politics and viewpoints from around the state, check out ktvb.com. Signing off, thanks for joining us. I'm Joe Paris here with Viewpoint. We'll see you next week.